Welcome to Meeples on Meeples, episode 56. I'm Adam.
Andrew.
Brian.
Patrick.
Before we get into our game of the week this week, of course, we'd like to invite you over to our Facebook page, as well as our website, meeplesonmeeples.com, and our YouTube channel. Go over, check all of them out, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like us on Facebook. You'll see all of our most recent reviews, as well as our questions of the week, where we kind of throw it out to the community to try to get some feedback on the games we are playing or that we should be playing.
This week's game is Quarantine. Quarantine is a basic tile placement and bidding game, and the idea is to make the biggest and most efficient hospital out there. Now, the role of the game is on your turn you have 4 actions, which are identified by the 4 white tokens that are in front of me. On your turn, you can take a total of 4 actions, and those 4 actions can include the following. 1, admitting a patient from your line. You admit them from the front of the line into the appropriately colored treatment room. Another thing you can do is if a patient is in the appropriate colored treatment room, you can take an action to cure those patients in that color. A third action could be rearranging your hospitals, where with one action you can flip or move 2 tiles to make a hospital more efficient or more effective. A third action is the gray cubes that we'll talk about in just a second are contaminated areas, and you can cure those gray areas from your hospital, allowing you to utilize that square. A couple other actions are you can save up your actions to use in the future, represented by these red crosses, or you can purchase tiles from the center to add on to your hospitals. Now, the tiles in the center include the colored tiles that you start off with to add more of those to your hospital so you can treat more patients, and specialty tiles, which when you purchase them gives you special abilities and also bonus points at the end of the game. To purchase a tile on your action, you take cubes of people you've treated. Once you cure them, they go into kind of your bank over here, and you can use your bank to place a bid on the tiles.
And that's only on the special
tiles. The regular colored tiles, you just spend 2 patients and you get the regular colored tile if there are any left. But the special tile, you'll place a certain amount and certain color code of cubes. Now, you don't get that tile right away. You have to wait until the beginning of your next turn. On that turn, as it goes around to each of your players, if they have those cubes in front of them, they can buy those tiles out from underneath you. So that's part of the strategy that we'll talk about later. When you place a tile down, once you get a tile, either a colored tile or special tile, when you place it down, it just has to have the door opened up so that patients can get from your hallway and somehow get to that treatment room. The object is to have the biggest hospital at the end of the game, which is the end of the game is triggered by all the tiles being bought from the center, or there's no more patients in the bag. How do you run out of patients in the bag? Well, all the patients start in the bag, and on your turn, during, before, or after you've taken your actions, you call for more patients. You call for admit a patient. The person on your right gives you 1 patient, and you can either put it in your line or in the line of another player. If you grab a gray cube, you can place that in your hospital, contaminating one of yours. Why you would do that? There's a couple of specialty tiles that may benefit you. Or you can place it on a tile of your opponent, therefore locking that tile until they clean it. You get 4 patients on your turn. Once you've done with your 4 patients, your 4 actions, you pass them to the player to your left, and the player continues that way. And that's really the essence of the game.
And scoring in the game works based on the size of your hospital. You count a point for every specialty room you have, as well as a point for every completed nurse's station. And every tile has a quarter of a nurse's station in the corner. Yep. If you end up with a full circle
with the 4
nurse's
corners
station, you get a point for each one of those you have. So a point for every specialty room, a point for every nurse's station, a point for having nobody in your waiting line,
and a point for every 2 humans or 2 patients that you did not utilize to purchase a tile.
In your bank.
Still in your bank. Yep. And that's basically the rules, I think.
Let's go on to components.
The components are very simple. It's cardboard squares and wooden cubes.
Yeah, I mean the art on the squares is you got I guess the cross in the center of every single one of the regular rooms, but other than that they're pretty basic. You get like the nurse's station that's in the corner. You can see like chairs added, computers, things like that. Nothing too fancy.
Little flavor.
And it has nothing to do with the gameplay.
No.
Yeah, nothing to do with the gameplay. The specialty rooms have. I mean, the pictures on them are supposed to convey what that room does, which we'll get into a little bit later, but it doesn't do a real great job of that.
Simple components.
Very simple components. One thing that, and Ian isn't here, but he's our resident colorblind player. The main 4 rooms you start with are red, green, blue, and yellow, and there's nothing to differentiate them except their color. So I'd imagine if he was playing this game, it would be pretty difficult for him to tell the difference between the 4 rooms.
Well, the cubes. The most common colorblind is red blue.
Yep.
It's red green. I believe it's red green, and they use those colors. He has trouble with blue sometimes, so this would kill him.
Red and brown.
And getting those, I mean, I can imagine him with not only the cubes being that color, but also the rooms being that color with no other differentiation. It'd just be, I think, a hard game for him to.
Not a good color blind playing game.
The other thing about the components, we have a nice table made by Andrew and Adam that doesn't let them slip really so much. If you were to play on a regular table, these might slide and bump easier. Interlocking pieces actually would be very simple to do because they're all the same shape, same size. So that would be nice.
Kind of build them together. So I don't think it's something they could have done.
It's definitely not a problem for us, but for some people, you could easily bump and slide things around.
The wood is pretty simple. I mean, it's discs or little cubes
or crosses,
I guess. The cubes.
They're not all cut well.
Yeah, they're not all uniform in size. Kind of a nitpicky thing, but it's just.
They're not all cubes either, though. The way they're cut.
We have a polyhedron in here somewhere. So that's about anything else that you want to add for components?
How about we go into strategy on this one then?
Strategy, the idea of making points is either having the largest hospital or the most nurses station, or able to blow through the patient line the fastest.
And keep them in your bank.
And keep them in your bank and not utilize them.
One thing I think, discovered in this game is there's no real incentive, 1, to clean your hospital, or 2, to make your line short, to be efficient, for lack of a better term.
I literally had a line way bigger than that. The first time we played, I had a line that was going all the way off the table, so I had to curve it around.
He had a conga going.
I had a conga line of patients around the block. I had the cleanest, most beautiful hospital because I never used it. I just kept building and expanding.
You just left the disease on the street.
It was awesome. I left the disease out the door, and you can legitimately win because there's no ding. This is a problem with the strategy, is you should lose points if you have a huge line, like the biggest line or something should be negative points.
Because you get 1 point for having no line, but the longest line should get 1 point off.
There's nothing really to make you have any incentive to do anything besides have patients in your bank
and
build your. I mean, you can really, as Brian kind of proved in the last game, you could really win the game just by building.
Yeah.
I mean,
first place.
He had a huge line. He had a dirty hospital, but he had a big hospital.
It was a thing of beauty.
The other thing I don't like about the strategy is if your room is contaminated at the end of the game, you should not be able to score it. But if you read the instructions or the rules, there's no ding for having. You could have your whole. People could have been throwing up and down your hallways.
Well, and it could be just, no ding. Even if you have 2 grays,
you should not be able to score those.
But just like if you have 2 people outside, for every 2 gray, you get -1.
Yeah, exactly.
Or whatever, you know what I mean?
It's a missed opportunity.
Right. There's quite a few missed opportunities for negative points.
And how that gets into strategy is, it really leads you not to really care about the patient so much. It leads you to just build.
Like a real hospital.
Yeah. It leads you to, the biggest strategy we found is building. And none of us really tried this strategy. I think Andrew brought it up. You could, I guess, cure patients and just build up your bank of patients and then get the 2 points, or 1 point for every 2 patients.
I was thinking about the problem with that theory, though, is once people started seeing you banking them up, you're just going to get grade.
They're going to be hard for you to cure.
Because you have to waste one of these to clean a room, and then another one to submit a guy, and a third one to cure him.
If you have the pharmacy,
all you got to do is keep the pharmacy.
No, that's
all you
true,
have to do. So technically, you could still get 3 every turn because all you'd have to do is
explain what the pharmacy does and why that's a good strategy.
The pharmacy automatically, you can just basically take people out of your line, feed them drugs, take them out the door. You don't have to put them into a patient room.
Because normally you got to spend 2. You got to spend 1 to get them in, 1 to cure them.
Right.
If you have the pharmacy and it's clean, you can just take your 4 actions, take the 4 people from the front of the line, and cure them, and you're done.
And I'm going to talk about another awesome room.
That is a great strategy. If you can get that room early on, it's good.
The gift shop is another good strategy. If you can get this, at first I thought it was useless. Like, you can buy a cube from. When you spend cubes, they just kind of get put off in the box, they call it or whatever. But this is, I can spend 1 action to buy any color I want from the box. As long as somebody else has spent a blue and there's a blue sitting there, I need a blue, I can buy it. And so instead of spending 1 to admit, spending 1 to cure, I can just go, boom, I'm going to buy 1. I have this guy. So again, I would go 3 discs, I get 3 colors, And as we mentioned before, if somebody bid like a blue, a red, and a yellow on security, I can buy a blue, red, yellow, spend my fourth one to buy security. There you go. Yeah, you can buy rooms or you can just build your patient bank.
Yeah, that gets into
because you have that.
You can either build your hospital real quick with that, or you can build your patient.
The other fun one is contract tiles. You can build up patients because instead of purchasing a contract tile and putting the money in the bank, they can pay the person who opened up the contract. So there's a couple neat things in there. But the strategy is pretty simplistic.
Yeah, more or less, it's either big hospital or big amount of cured patients or a good amount of both.
Yeah, you're shooting for one of those three.
Yeah, that's about it. How about likes and dislikes on this one, then?
I will start out with dislikes. There was a lot of missed opportunities in the theme. We talked about the no dings, no negatives on the scoring. That's a missed opportunity. I think it would be much more thematic if you had it clean. It'd give you an impetus to try to clean, try to cure. I think having a long line and grays should discount. The other thing is, everybody at the beginning of the game is handed out a hospital admittance area, and we were talking that
they're individual hospitals.
Yeah, they each have a different name. And a missed opportunity would be another way to score points would be a secret agenda, where if you have Osler General Hospital, your secret agenda would be for every green you cured, you're a green specialty hospital.
You know what would be even better with that is on the back, they put your little special ability, so only you know what it is.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So you're secretly doing something so that the other players don't know. Because if they know that you're trying to get greens, obviously they're just going to...
Or separate car, or maybe even a separate piece of,
a randomly drawn card, I think, actually. Because people figure out real quick, I know what that hospital special ability is.
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple big dislikes for me is, one is the theme, I think, is hurt by the fact that you don't really have to take care of your hospital, like you said. You can build it up. I mean, the theme is supposed to be, I think, kind of a sim feel to it, building up, administering a hospital, curing patients. And there's something taken away from that when you really don't have to care about the hospital. I mean, the hospital could just be the most rundown place in the world. So you lose something there. On the rules, and we haven't talked about this too much, but... like we said, on special rooms, they have pictures on them that are supposed to tell you what they do. Those are, I guess we'd say, less than clear.
Vague.
Very vague. Looking at them, it's really hard to tell what they say. The problem is, in the rule book, there's at least certain of the rooms that even the explanation is not clear. Yeah. To the point where we had to go to kind of third-party forum posts to find out how other people were dealing with it, and that's a significant problem. Yeah, exactly.
And people didn't. Yeah, we're having trouble agreeing on how that room should.
We realized that there were people on both sides of. One of them, for instance, was the on-call room, and I won't go into what it does, but there's kind of two sides of how to use that room, and you can go and just search on Board Game Geek, for instance, on that room, and you'll find a kind of a discussion saying, well, certain group thought it should be this way, a certain group thought it should be the other way, and that's the exact discussion we had here. Mm-hmm. And there is an answer to a degree, but I think it's just a problem with the game overall, where not only is the picture on the special room not clear, but the description in the book just isn't very clear on some of the rooms.
Which leads to another dislike, that the rule book, your first game or two, will be passed around. Oh, yeah. It's like, I'm thinking about bidding on one of the special rooms, but I don't. What's that do again? And you'll see the rule book follow whichever player's turn it is.
If these were clearer, or if the rule book was clear, you could remember it right away. For a simple game as it is, you shouldn't have to
rule on the back of the deck.
Yeah.
Just print it right on the back.
For a simple game as this is, you shouldn't have to reference the rule book.
Yeah, this isn't a game like Game of Thrones where you should be going back to this thick rule book trying to figure out what's going on. This should be one of those where you play it once.
And I don't even do that with Game of Thrones as much as I do with this game, which is embarrassing.
It shouldn't be an issue for the kind of, I guess, gateway feel that this game has.
It could be tweaked, and it could have been a lot. I don't think it is that way. I think if they spent a little bit more time tweaking either the image or the description, being very specific, because I know they might say, well, the writing is what we intended. Well, the intent needs to be clear.
Wait. Isn't it like an actual hospital then? There's just a lot of gray rooms.
That's kind of true.
That's how the billing works.
That's even how the procedure works. To tell you the honest truth, if you want to know.
It's a really thin rule book. They could have added a page or two to it just to make it a little clearer.
Yeah, and make sure, for example, there's some question out there such as the pharmacy. Can you only use one action per turn, or can you use all 4 actions? I mean, those are things that we have
use
to go
a lot
through.
of actions.
Yeah,
I abuse that pharmacy.
Pharmacy crazy. I use all 4.
But those are things that are indicate, they say use an action, and the publisher since stated says, you have actions, you use them that way if you wish. But I wish it was a little bit more clear and a little more tight in the rule.
How about any other likes or dislikes on this? I think
color blindness.
Kind of going against what I've said, where I don't like the fact that you don't have to take care of your hospital, taking away from the theme. I think it at least the interesting theme comes across okay in the fact that you kind of feel like a hospital administrator, I guess.
I like that it's a unique thing. How many hospital games are out there? Again, you're running the building.
Yep.
You're more of the micromanagement side of things. There's no doctor or patient theme at all.
Really. I did not feel like Bob Kelso in this.
No, not at all. But I mean, that theme comes across, I think, okay, and it's like you said, it's unique. So that's a kind of a like for the game, I guess. Anything else you guys can think of?
I think that's good for likes and dislikes.
All right, here's the reviews. We have a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being terrible, just throw it in the garbage. Don't ever look at it. You know what? Give it to your enemy. That's a good thing to do with a 1.
Manhattan Project.
10. Best game. Lock it in your vault at home so nobody can take it from you. Adam, take it away.
I'm gonna go a 6 on this one. It's an okay game. Nothing that I'd buy. Nothing that I'd really go out and ask you guys to bring every single week. I'll play it every once in a while. My biggest problem being, and I've talked about this before on games, is the rule book. For as simple of a game this is, we shouldn't be passing that thing around all the time, and we shouldn't have to be, for certain, going to forum posts to try to figure out how to play the game. It should be a lot clearer. Something we also talked about is the fact that the theme to a certain degree just doesn't come across well because there's no penalty for not treating patients. There's no penalty for not keeping it clean. It's an okay game. It's light enough, but it should be a tighter package for what it is. And it isn't, and it ends up as a 6 for me.
I'm going to piggyback on that 6. For me, it's a 6 for some of the same reasons, but for me, missed opportunities. And I know people get a little upset when you say it could have been better. They say, well, you're not the creator of it. Well, I do think there were some missed opportunities of secret scoring that could really use your patients, so you'd have a reason to cure green patients or red patients, become a specialty hospital. For negating points rather than gaining points. Let's lose some victory points. If you have a Brian Hoyer hospital or if you have something like that out there,
first place.
That's right. But number 1. There should be some negatives for
dirty, no helping patients. Number 1.
It looks great. The hospital looked great.
America.
but there should be some negative points or negative points for that. There's just missed opportunities. I think it could have been a really great game. It could have been a cool game. It could easily have been a 7 if there was some secrets, built into it and a way to force you to play it, but it's not there.
The uniqueness of the theme could have made it a great game.
Yeah, and if they put the little bit of extra spin on it to give you a reason why these are different colored other than just to use up rooms, would have been much better.
Well, I'm going to have that lead into my review. This game, and tell me if you disagree or agree here, but screams for like an expansion that adds the things we've talked about.
I would say
a little player card that gives you a special ability, a small deck of cards that gives you a hidden agenda that gets you bonus points at the end of the game. It'd be so easy to expand on. You don't really have to change any of the rules in the game.
A player card that tells very specifically how many times you can use each item.
Just one little deck of cards could totally change the game. And that would bring it up because I'm with them. I'm at about a 6.5. They've talked about the negatives, so I'll say why it's better than a 5, which is just a meh. The reason it's a pretty decent game, 6.5, is because the theme is unique. The playtime is pretty quick. It's an hour. And you add about 10 minutes passing the rule book around, unfortunately. But it's pretty quick. Once you can agree on what the tiles do, it is simple, the rules that are there. Nothing overly complicated. Setup time, teardown time, fast. I was really excited when I saw this on Board Game Geek and when I saw it announced. I thought, a unique, interesting theme. This could be a really cool game. And I was disappointed. But the thing that kind of bumps it up to that 6.5 for me is, it's that light game that lets me talk and hang out and just have fun with my friends. I'm not so lost in my strategy that I'm focused on my cards or my hand or what I'm doing that we can't talk and shoot the breeze and enjoy the company. Or I'm not so into the game that I'm like furious when I lose. It's like, I have this huge line, whatever. And so it kind of keeps it lighthearted and fun and you can just enjoy it.
It's too bad you don't get to play with your friends all that often.
Yeah, it's too bad I got to play with these guys. But no, it's a 6.5. It's not a horrible game, but it's just not great.
I'm going to go with a 5. It's not fundamentally broken. Everything, it works. The colors are good. the
As long as you're not
cubes.
colorblind.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you're not colorblind, you know. But, you know, I mean, how would you change that? I mean,
That's true.
they are what they are. You know, it can be fun. I wish there was a little more things to engage you in it, because at some points I didn't even realize it was my turn. Like, just to bring you in just enough to where you're actually a little more engaged. Other than that, it wasn't terrible. I didn't hate it. I didn't want to just get up and walk away, but it wasn't something that was just drawing me back into the table. So it was just right in the middle there with a 5.
Well, there you have it. There's our scores for Quarantine. Tune in next week and we'll have another game for you.